Creatively Inspired Challenge is by the canvas that the talented Alisa Burk created on her blog. I just loved it. It was this big canvas about this size, I'm guessing, maybe a little bigger. This is one that I created this morning. I was actually going to film my process, and I started just doodling, and before I knew it, I had like done the whole thing, and I was like, oh, I was going to record that. So I'm going to do the process again, which is good because every time you do it, it's different. So this is the finished piece, and the first thing I did is I just doodled with my black pen over the whole canvas, and then I went in and colored it in with the Neocolor wax pastel crayons, these crayons here, and then got it wet and watercolored it. And then I went in with the Faber-Castell pens and defined it even more. And then of course the very last step was just going over it a little bit. You can see the texture on it with some of my stamps. And you don't have to, but that was one thing that I wanted to do. So this I did not gesso before I started, and I have gessoed this. I haven't gessoed this one down here. So I'm kind of anxious to see what the difference would be. Obviously I know that when I'm using with the Neocolors, if it's gessoed, I'm going to get a much vibrant color than when it's not, because the color will soak into the canvas. So I'm sure that's one of the reasons why. But so I'm going to just show you a little bit of my process, go through the process. I really want to do a big one like this, but I think that it might take too long. But you know what? Let's just do it. I was going to say, I was going to say I was going to do one this size for you, but I think I'll do one the big size. So what I'm going to do is just start this canvas, like I said, corner down here, and build out this way. So I'm just going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to stick this in fast forward mode. I'm going to leave these here so we don't get out of focus, and I'm just going to start. One thing I have noticed that I have to be careful because this pen stays wet for a little bit, so when I'm doodling I have to make sure to keep my hand up or else I will smear it. And this other one, there were a couple of places that I smeared it, but the cool thing is that once it's done you can't really tell. So anyways, we'll just get started. Okay, so I have finished it. I did not plan on it being this large scale. I mean, I wanted it big, but on this one you can see that I did like different flowers and then did one over here. And that was kind of my idea with this one, as I was going to do a flower and a couple flowers here and then maybe one up here in the corner, and it just took a life of its own and we just did one big flower, which is totally okay. I still might add something coming off the page just over here to, so it's not so like one thing. But now I'm going to color it. You could easily leave it like this, like a black and white. You could even go in and just line all of the black with like a color to make it pop. But I really like color, so I am going to pull out my watercolor crayons, and you could use anything. I like the neon or the Neocolor pastels. You could also use actually watercolor pencils or whatever, but I'm going to use these. So I'm going to go back in again to fast forward mode and color this. And I'm really having a hard time deciding because I originally was just going to do like big color swatches again, kind of like this one, and define it a little more. But so I'm just going to start coloring away, and then after I color, I've got to get it wet and make it watercolor. So you'll see the process as I go. Okay, so I have it mostly colored, and you can see it's just like it's a crayon. It's just been crayoned in. Now, as I get it wet, it's going to start producing like vibrant, bright color, which is like the awesome process of this. I am going to grab some smaller brushes. And this is my process. Everyone does it different, but I just like to do it this way. So, oh, don't worry. Don't worry. That's just me. So I'm going to start in sections. We'll just start down in here. And I just kind of focus on the area and see how when I start to squirt, the color just starts to pop a little bit. So I'm going to go in, and everywhere that I did this blue, I'm just going to pull the color. this canvas it needed to dry a little bit, and the colors were starting to mix a little bit. But as you can see, I kind of went in and started making, like, getting some bolder colors. And this is how I do it. So now I'm going to go in and just kind of, like, add some highlights. And how I would do that is with the Faber-Castell pens. And the thing about the pens is that they're like, spreadable, I guess you could say. This canvas is still so wet. It might take, like, a while for it to dry. But I would just basically come in here like this and highlight, like, all the different areas with the color. Okay, so I think it's finished. I wanna add some more black detailing to it, but it's so wet that the it's not taking the black Sharpie, so I need to wait for it to dry. I'm gonna go set it outside. But before I do that, I'm gonna add a little bit of texture to it. It's just a black ink pad, and then my roller stamp, and I'm just gonna add some dimension to it. This is actually good and done. It's really bright and totally not how I intended it to be. I wanted it to actually be a bunch of different ones and not all over color, because I kind of like the fact that this one is got like different colors, you know, like for me I prefer this over all these different dimensions. I just like this better. But this is how it turned out, and I think it's great. And like I said, when it dries I might go in with a Sharpie and go over the black a little bit more, but I think pretty much it's finished.